It comes on the heels of a major opportunity or challenge, some people would call it, of getting the youth employed and actively part of our economy. You have all heard that the majority Africa has the youngest youth population and therefore potentially has the largest drive to create opportunity for the human race for the years to come. However, there are issues about that. Issue number one is that the rate at which we are producing people who are going to enter employment is way faster than the jobs that are there for them. On your slide on the left side, right side of the screen is a snapshot of a document, a forecast document by the African Development Bank. And it basically says that Africa's working age will grow by approximately 450 million people. That's about 3% per year between 2015 and 2035. That by 2050, which is less than not many decades away, we will have about 362 million young people between the ages of 15 and 14 years old. The trouble is that the rate at which we are generating these young people and putting them out of school is not commensurate to the rate at which we are creating jobs. Africa has deindustrialized in many cases, or the rate at which it is happening is way lower than industry could absorb them. So we're going to be listening to many things today, but our focus is on the agriculture sector, which employs a huge part of our population, in many countries over 70%. And if you look at that statistics, the youth make up a very small proportion who are engaged in wage-based employment, the thing that is most rewarding in many types of employment. And so today we have a distinguished panel. The structure of our meeting is going to be two types. We are going to have a webinar where we have key informant presentations, and we are going to be listening to Ruforum's Youth Agenda for Skills and Job Creation, and Dr. Anthony Egeru is going to be providing that. We are also going to look at agribusiness incubators and accelerators in sub-Saharan Africa, and Dr. Anne Rollin, the CEO of Agripreneurship Alliance, is going to give us some perspectives as well. And once these two have presented, we are going to have some panelists from universities reacting to the first two presentations. We'll have Professor Duncan Ongwen, he's going to from Gulu University. We'll have Professor Patience Shenga from Egerton and Mr. Joshua Isiko from Afrisa Makere University. So they will be reacting to what these two lead presentations are going to say. That is the webinar part of it. I would like to invite you to put your comments, your questions in the chat room. And once you do that, they will be able to respond. We'll take a few minutes for them to respond to that. We will then move to the second part of the meeting, which is a marketplace type of arrangement. In this arrangement, we want to hear from the youth themselves. So we'll hear from employed graduates in agriculture, Juliet Ochaya from Uganda, she's a private person. And then Aidan Kyohairwe Prima, we'll also hear from that. Then a self-employed youth, we'll hear from Tu Idoko from Nigeria, and Lakarebe from Uganda. And then we will also hear from students who are currently in training. What do they think about their training? Is it going to lead them anywhere? We will then open up and have a plenary session just to get the hot touch points together from the youth and the panelists, perhaps directly responding. So that's the roadmap for today. That's what we have in our menu. And ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I'd like now to welcome all the participants and request you to follow the following rules. If you are not a panelist or you are not presenting, please can you switch off your video? Just tap the video so that it doesn't interfere with the presentations. And then I'm also going to request that you mute all your microphones and only leave the microphone of the moderator and the microphone of the person talking at that time. The second rule that I would like to request is that you use their symbols at the bottom of your icons, rather at the bottom of your screen. There is a hand. You can actually tap that hand. I will then be able to select you, and then once you put that, I'll be able to select you. Then lastly, please try to keep your comments as brief as possible so that we get as much engagement as possible, especially when we come to the marketplace. We will welcome all of your comments and your feedback in the chat room. And then last, I wanted to say that please, we are recording this and would like to let you know, just for ethical purposes, you to be aware that we are recording it, and we will use this information to beef up the proposal that RUFORUM is developing together with a team of consultants to support, to pilot projects that will create employment for youth in the country. So with those many words, I would like to welcome Professor Adipala Ekwamu to say a few things to us. Welcome, Professor Adipala. He is the CEO of RUFORUM. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, participants. This is not Professor Adipala Ekwamu, CEO of RUFORUM, but I am Florence Nakaiwa, Deputy Executive Secretary of at the RUFORUM Secretariat. Thank you very much, Patrick, for those opening remarks, which really set us on the path of discussion, dialogue about the youth. So I wish to welcome all the participants and all the panelists to this youth and employment webinar stroke dialogue, so that we appreciate where we are going and where we are coming from and where we are at as far as youth and entrepreneurship is at the RUFORUM Secretariat. The youth agenda is quite important to RUFORUM, and as such, if you note from the panelists that we are bringing together different actors who will share their ideas about what they are doing for youth and employment on the continent. We know that as RUFORUM, a network of 129 universities in 38 African countries, it is important that we listen. And noting, as the moderator has said, that Africa is a youth continent, we as RUFORUM cannot sit back and not do anything about the youth and entrepreneurship. And we know that as a forum for capacity building in agriculture, agriculture is the way to go. So thank you very much for coming for this discussion, this dialogue. I want to thank all the panelists who have spared their time to come and be with us. We are eagerly waiting to listen to what you're going to be discussing. Thank you very much for joining us from Gulu, from Egerton, from Switzerland, whoever you are, please. Thank you very much for coming to participate in this webinar. And thank you, Patrick, for agreeing to moderate this and putting it together. I also want to thank Anthony Egeru, Dr. Egeru, our training manager, for putting this together in such a short time. But it is something that we cannot forget to discuss. As RUFORUM, we have been holding webinars for the past 6 months, ever since the COVID pandemic began, and this is crowning them all. What a way to crown the webinar season, which was joined by the governance session of the annual general meeting and the attendant governance meetings. So we have been really getting ideas, tapping into the wisdom of the different people as we are in this meeting today. But thank you very much. I also wanted to let you know that as RUFORUM, and as mentioned by the moderator, we are right now undertaking a feasibility study on youth employment and entrepreneurship. I'm sure one of the panelists will bring that out quite vividly so that we see the way forward as far as youth and employment is concerned. The consulting firm, Geotropic Consults Limited, led by Dr. Tizikara, Crescencio, and the moderator here is a member of that team, will be giving us additional information. But we want to learn from other panelists as well. I want to thank you very much for joining this, and thank you very much, Patrick, for taking this forward and for joining us. I look forward to a very fruitful engagement and deliberation on youth and employability in Africa. Thank you very much. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Florence. I apologize. I didn't realize it that it was not Professor Adipala, but you verbally welcomed us. We are very grateful. Without much ado, may I now invite Dr. Anthony Egeru to share with us his thoughts on RUFORUM's youth agenda. You have roughly 10 minutes to do so. So yeah, you'll hear me clear my voice when you finish at least 8 minutes. Just know that let's try to keep time. Over to you, sir.
Okay, sorry, I had gone ahead while I was not unmuted. Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. I would like to say RUFORUM's youth agenda is summarized in these 4 key issues. RUFORUM aspires for skilled, innovative, engaged, and positioned youth across Africa. And really within this functionality that universities have a fundamental role. And because it's a member-based organization of universities, so that's where we are all focused on. Now, just for those who may be new into the RUFORUM arrangements as an institution, we are essentially guided by this strong motivation that if we are to transform agriculture in Africa, we require innovative scientific research, educational and training approaches. And our education sector should fundamentally connect to the new challenges that are facing rural communities and needs to build our capacity continuously for the young people to be part of this transformation of the agricultural sector. So this motivation keeps us driving and journeying through our daily operations. Just again, briefly, for those who are new to the RUFORUM context, RUFORUM has grown through from 2004 to the current 2020 situation, and the countries that are painted on the left in brown are the countries that where RUFORUM is currently operational. Now, in terms of the RUFORUM youth agenda, it's just, I would like to put it in summary. RUFORUM is focused on ensuring that we have skilled youth, the youth that are skilled and are able to transition into employment, skilled both in technical and in the social dimension, because there is an indication that 70% of the world where we are doing or where we are employed right now, most of us, the 70% are not in our technical disciplines where we are employed. And that therefore means that it comes with a lot more social engineering. So when you are a RUFORUM supported student and in a RUFORUM member university, we are struggling as much as possible to ensure that you're skilled technically, but you are also socially engineered to be able to deal and respond and cope up with the world where you are operating in. And in this context is our current system of Africa. The second component issue within the RUFORUM youth agenda is youth that are innovative and entrepreneurial. We seek that our youth that come through our programs not only are generating new innovations, new technologies, new management practices, but are also able to translate these innovations and opportunities around them into enterprises and business. So we support and do several things along that direction to ensure that these can be made to be a reality. That therefore means that different actions are taken to ensure that youth are able to start their own businesses. In the third component of the youth agenda is really that we seek for youth that are engaged and change leaders. Within the Roof Forum programming, we don't say we are training you to be an excellent plant breeder or an excellent agricultural economist. We are training you to be an excellent agricultural leader. That therefore means that you have to be at the forefront of transformation agenda. You are at the forefront of engagement. Your plant breeding is a weapon in the engagement process, and so that there is a better buy-in into the processes. So you are part of the transformation journey. You are the change leaders. So that this is what we stress a lot within the Roof Forum Youth Agenda. The fourth component relates to issues around collaboration and mutual learning, because we are within the context of Africa, and if you note within the continuum of our colonial history, you have many who are very proud to call themselves Francophone, where those who are very proud to call themselves Lusophone, and then there are also some of us who are very proud to say we are Anglophone. But then there are those who are very proud to say, I am an Arab. Why are we having all this differentiation within one continent? What we are therefore saying, we want youth that are able to talk to one another. We want youth that are able to understand and appreciate the differences in diversity within Africa. Youth that are able to support one another and learn from one another. So we stress within our youth agenda a strong component of African youth mobility, a strong component of youth moving from one region to the other, to study from one region to the other, to ensure that we are able to know Africa better, we are able to work across Africa as young people. So within all that, our youth agenda, we then say, we as Roof Forum are committed to youth that are to develop Africa, youth committed to developing Africa. That is our rallying call and our rallying agenda within our youth agenda. So having said that, I'd just like to take 2 slides to just demonstrate some of the things. In terms of the technical skills, for example, things that we've been working on with the TVET students and out of school youth in Northern Uganda, for example. We are focused on ensuring that people have hands-on, not only the technical skills, but they are able to move from the technical skills into into enterprise development, and they are able to earn from this process, so that it is not a question about just you're excellent theoretically, but you're excellent in theory, in practice, and in real life of earning a living. So I would like to stop just at that point, just to demonstrate that uses to demonstrate that what is it that we as Roof Forum and a network of universities is focused our attention on. In the broader context, there are definitely a lot more things to be able to be talked, but in brief, that is a summary of Roof Forum Youth Agenda. I would like to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, just a minute. Thank you very much, Anthony, for being very brief and help saving us time. We will move on now to listen to the agribusiness incubators and accelerators in Sub-Saharan Africa. And Anne would like to invite you to take the floor. Over to you, Anne.
Okay, oops. Thank you very much, Professor Okori, and thank you for this opportunity to share the work we've been doing. So this is a study that we've been conducting for the Food and Agriculture Organization and the African Union since the beginning of this year. Now, it's a study on agribusiness incubation and acceleration across Sub-Saharan Africa. And in the time available, I really don't have the opportunity to get into the definitions, because there's almost as many definitions as there are different organizations. So in actual fact, we prefer to use the term entrepreneur support organizations, as this is more general. And so you'll see this term appearing in my presentation. So the scope of the study was to do, first of all, a literature review and mapping of the agribusiness entrepreneur support organizations across sub-Saharan Africa. And we mapped about over 500 and selected 350 to be included in a directory. The main criteria of the selection was that they had to have activities both in agribusiness, but also stimulating business development. We did a detailed analysis of 12 of them in on-site visits in Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, and the Côte d'Ivoire. We'd hoped to do more trips, but due to COVID-19, we couldn't go to Uganda, Senegal, and the other countries that we wanted to visit. So what we did is we organized a series of sub-regional webinars to inform the study and also get feedback. And we were delighted that Anthony was able to speak in one of these webinars. We also followed a whole series of webinars organized by different players, which provided more input into the whole study. So what we're intending to do is to provide an assessment of the best practices and critical success factors, and the gaps and the opportunities and the future prospects, and then bring this all together and finalize the report. And we're in the middle of writing the report right now. And so I'll only be able to give you a few highlights here in 15 minutes. If we look at the organizations per country, and here I'm really focused on those with a headquarters within Sub-Saharan Africa, we can see that 5 countries are particularly active: South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, and Ghana. And these are principally the largest African economies, although Uganda is particularly dynamic for its size and its GDP. But if we look at those organizations that are completely devoted to agriculture and agribusiness, because many of them are working across sectors and only one of their areas is agribusiness, but the ones that are entirely dedicated, we find that the top 5 countries are the same, but the order is different. And here Uganda and Kenya top the ranking with the most organizations. Now, there is a very wide range of different types of entrepreneur support organizations. There are agricultural training or agricultural research organizations that also provide business training. There's the banks, both the commercial banks and the World Bank and the African Development Bank are extremely active in this area. There's government-sponsored organizations, NGOs, network organizations, organizations that have been founded by various UN agencies, the FAO, the UNDP, and others. There's private sector organizations. One growing area is the whole area of tech hubs and digital, and this has really been expanding very rapidly. And universities, and many universities have also business support activities, and RUFORM is an extremely powerful force in this area, with many of the programs like RECAP and others that are being organized by RUFORM. And we've been delighted to work with some of the RUFORM organizations like Gulu, Bishop Stewart, and Egerton, and more recently started with Bukavu in DRC. So you can see these different types of organizations all have a slightly different focus, but all have a very important role to play in supporting young agripreneurs. So what are some of the gaps, opportunities, and potential actions? Well, one of the biggest opportunities is really agri-processing and entrepreneurship. As you well know, African agricultural exports are dominated by primary exports of unprocessed products. And only about 20% of the exports can be classified as processed goods. This lack of processing also leads to very high levels of food waste across the continent. Value-added processing is very much needed for Africa to support future economic growth and capture more value. But one of the issues is that there's only about 10 entrepreneur support organizations out of more than 300 in the directory that we have prepared that have food technology pilot processing facilities. Several of these are in Uganda, in Curad, at the Ugandan Industrial Research Institute and the Makerere University Food Technology Business Incubation Centre. In Kenya, there is KERDI, the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, and in South Africa, the Bakery and Food Technology Incubator. But these are very, very few. So how do young people who have got an innovative idea for a new food product, how can they get started? The FAO did a very interesting study, which was actually a compilation of case studies of successful agripreneurs, and it's called Agripreneurship Across Africa, Stories of Inspiration. And all of these entrepreneurs were doing some kind of food processing, and several of them had support from different institutions with pilot processing facilities. For example, we can cite Eric Mutoni from Starry Foods in Kenya, who got early stage technical support from KERDI, and Lovin from Kati Farms in Uganda, who developed a very innovative product, fish sausages, used the processing facilities from URI. I would really recommend you to take a look at this report and the video, and the links are included here. It's available both in French and in English. So many food science departments in universities provide mostly theoretical training, and African food entrepreneurs need practical knowledge in a wide range of processing technologies. Although it's very expensive to set up a complete pilot processing plant, it maybe cost $2 million. What is much easier to set up is experimental kitchens, and these can be used to develop innovative products for local tastes, developing healthy processed food using local ingredients. We're not talking about junk processed food, but we can have very healthy products. And the third challenge is that in the global north, new production launches of food products, whether they're by entrepreneurs or even by big food companies, they're often manufactured by contract packers. And this is a way of getting started in the production without having to invest in all the equipment to do so. And there are very few of these across the African continent, except in South Africa. There's also big gaps in terms of agribusiness capacity building, which can open up huge new opportunities. The knowledge on agricultural value chains, the supply chain linkages, and the opportunities to really understand what are the gaps and where new businesses can be created. Capacity building, food safety knowledge, and also the laboratories to provide measurements of aflatoxins, microbiology, pesticide residues, etc. And also certification, which is really essential for capturing export markets. Nutrition knowledge applied to food processing and production. And then solid agricultural training combined with business training. And here RUForum with programs like RECAP is really playing a very, very important role. And the whole communication about agriculture as a business, not just a default occupation. And finally, to capture the huge potential in agtech, we need more experienced software engineers, especially in advanced coding. And I think the universities have a role here to develop programs in advanced coding that also combine agricultural knowledge to really capture the potential in agri-tech. And there's a lack of agribusiness programs and organizations focused on women. A couple of them are doing really an excellent job, like the African Women's Agribusiness Network in Kenya, but they're working right across the continent, and the African Women Innovation and Entrepreneurship Forum. The World Bank has developed a personal initiative training program, which is a psychology-based program focusing on skills like developing a persistent mindset, being future-oriented and self-starting. And this program showed a big increase in women's profits, them increasing by 40% compared to men of 30%. And this was above the baseline. And what women really need is improvement in soft skills, building confidence and accessing networks, which is often much more difficult for women. So just to conclude, there are over 300 incubators and accelerators across sub-Saharan Africa, over 220 with a focus on agribusiness, and the majority are specifically focusing on youth. It's a relatively recent phenomenon. The main increases have occurred since 2010. So this is about 20 years behind the global north, where the main developments were in the early 1990s. Now, there are some network organizations, but many interact within the same type of organization. And there's a huge need and opportunity to increase cross-fertilization between agri-research institute, private sector focused organizations, universities, etc., across the different types of entrepreneurship support, and to find ways to create more fora for regular exchange and webinars. And I have to say, COVID-19 has really accelerated this, which is extremely encouraging. Secondly, the importance of government policies and action and the creation of the whole enabling environment to stimulate agripreneurship. There's a need to capture best practices in terms of programs, content and selection, and develop practical manuals, including recent experience on what works in the African context. InfoDev, the World Bank, have some very good manuals, but they date from 2011 and have relatively little information and examples from Africa. And in this way, we can avoid organizations. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can really build on what other people have already developed. We need training in incubation management. There's a few training programs like AIN, but there's a need for more of this. As I mentioned earlier, agri-processing pilot capacity to look for mechanisms and funding to set up regional food processing pilot plants. And the cost is very high, but if this can be done regionally, this can be used by a whole range of organizations. Capacity building in agricultural value chains, agri-processing, food technology, food safety, nutrition, and advanced IT coding. Let's say stimulate new practical university programs in these areas. Agribusiness programs focused on women. What we want to do here is gather information on the successful programs and spread them through the incubator networks to strengthen the current approaches. Because most incubators say they have a program on women, but when you look at really what they're doing, it's not very clear. So how can we really capture the best practices and spread those out? And finally, the African Union has asked us to extend the study to North Africa in 2021. So this can be really a Pan-African study. So I'm sorry that was very quick, but this is what I was able to explain in the time available. And later on, I'm happy to answer any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anne. We are very grateful for a very rich presentation, and we'll continue on now to listen to our panelists. I would like to invite Duncan on. There are three of them. There is Duncan, Patience, and Joshua. Each of you will have about 5 to 7 minutes to share with us our thoughts, mostly reflecting, among others, on what Anne has presented. So I'll go straight away to Duncan. Please, Duncan, if you're available, are you online? Do we have Duncan online? Yes, and Patience, I thought I saw Patience connected. What about Joshua? Is Joshua Isiko connected?
Joshua is not online.
Okay, that buys us more time. So you have 10 minutes each. Duncan and Patience, either of you can go first. Duncan or Patience?
Okay, may I go first?
Please go first, Duncan. Over to you now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your line is breaking, sir. Is it me who can't hear?
Hello?
Please go
me?
ahead.
Okay, please. Oh, thanks very much, Patrick. Greetings from Gulu.
Thank you.
It is very interesting to be part of this discussion, especially the insights provided by Anthony and Han on the plight of the youth in Africa. Based on our experience in Gulu, working with the refugees, the community youth members, and the student youth groups at the TVET institutions and the university, we find that whereas the entrepreneurship in agriculture is a hot topic and a strong program that can bring development in the areas of the youth getting money into the pocket, we realize a few hiccups. One is that the approach has always been what we call target specific. A program goes for youth dropouts from school. A program goes for TVET institutions. A program goes for youth at universities. What I find quite interesting would be to have what I would call the youth entrepreneurship ecosystem, which brings on board the university youth, those in TVET institutions, and the dropouts to be able to champion this agenda as a community of practice, but not as thank you, Patrick.
I lost you, sir. Could you just come on, Prof? I lost you a bit.
Oh, yes.
Your line is...
you had asked me to come on with the video.
No.
So what I was saying.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah,
go ahead, sir.
What I was saying was, we need to create what I would call the youth entrepreneurship ecosystem. We're not only talking about youth in the university or graduates, those from TVET and those dropouts as separate entities, but as one community that needs support. I come on this point. First, agriculture or agribusiness is knowledge-based business. And you realize that there's probably more skills in the TVET institutions. And there's a lot more knowledge at the university. But we need a blend of all these two, and also more experience in the community. So therefore, creating the youth entrepreneurship ecosystem, in my opinion, provides a more holistic way to address these kind of challenges. I would like to agree with Han that for a long time, investment in agriculture in Africa has largely been on primary production. And yet the statistics indicate that there is more value at the post-harvest level. And therefore, investing a bit more resources and redirecting the thinking also of policymakers to make the youth go also more into the value addition becomes more handy. What we know is that the youth of society, they like quick things. They are unable to wait for the crop to stay in the garden for 4 months. But when they go into value addition, they're able to get money within 2 weeks or 2 days. In terms of support, you will realize that the incubators and accelerators sometimes are set in a way that are too complex for the school dropouts or the TVET institution students to be able to access. So is there a way in which these processes can be made much simpler in a way that when these categories of people access this, they are able to comprehend easily and able to implement what they get from there. And finally, in this ecosystem, we need more players in training youth on entrepreneurship. We need the financial institutions to be able to provide insights on how to access financial resources. And the financial institutions should also be encouraged to look at the youth in society as their potential clients, for which they have to also invest to be able to make them better borrowers for the future. Thank you for now.
Thank you very much, Duncan. We are grateful for your comments. I see the comments coming in the chat room. May I invite Patience to give us her thoughts, and then after that, I'll ask you to respond to some of the issues they have raised. Over to you, Patience.
Thank you, Professor Okori. And thank you, Anthony and Anne and Duncan, even for the great insights. I would wish to concur with what has been discussed by those who have presented earlier. And I will wish to begin with the challenges that are facing the youth, especially when it comes to agribusiness opportunities. We find that the youth face a lot of challenges when it comes to them getting into entrepreneurship in agribusiness. And some of these challenges range from inadequate policies. We find that we do not have adequate policies to support the youth in agribusiness. Also, we have the negative perception and attitudes to agribusiness by the youth themselves. And there's also limited participation of the youth in collective action, especially in African countries, because it's like in Africa, we believe that the youth are there to be seen and not to be heard. Then we have inadequate skills, knowledge, and information. And here, I think this is the role of the universities and the TVETs, so that they can be able to inculcate the right kind of skills. Then we have limited productive resources, as Anne said. And here, when we talk about limited access to productive resources, mostly, we are looking at it in terms of finances and land, because we find that for the youth to be able to access finance, then they have to have collateral, and most of them do not have collateral. And in Africa, we find that the youth do not own land. The land is owned by the older people. Then we have limited access to markets and also market information. And of course, we have the duplication of efforts. So those are some of the challenges that are facing the youth, as Anne suggested. Now, if we are looking at how we can be able to encourage the youth to get into entrepreneurship in agribusiness, then I will concur with Anne that we need some things to be done, and to be done very quickly, because if you're looking at the issue of the increasing youth populations and the youth bulge, then we have so many youth getting out of the universities, out of the TVETs, and each and every year they're looking for jobs, and the jobs are not there because of of slackening formal employment. And therefore, really something has to be done, and it has to be done very quickly. And what are we looking at here, or what are we suggesting here? We will need to see that there is some policy. The government should be able to come up with the relevant policy such that it can be able to encourage the youth to get into entrepreneurship in agribusiness. And when it comes to skills development, then we are looking here at the TVETs and the universities. Can they be able to come up with the right kind of curricula? And if you're talking about curricula here, then we are talking about curricula that will be able to enhance the right kind of skills in the students, such that as they get out there, they are able to create their own jobs. They are able to get either into processing, they are able to get either into production, or even to value addition, and even into provision of the services that are required, so that they can be able to employ themselves as well as employ others. In curricula, also, we are talking about the universities getting more into experiential learning here. And when we are looking at experiential learning, we know that with the youth bulge, then there is the challenge of provision of the right kind of skills for the students in the universities and in the TVETs because of the numbers. But I think as universities or TVETs, we can be able to do more. In that we can have the right kind of curricular delivery methodologies, and also we can be able to have more experiential learning in the students such that they can be able to acquire the right kind of skills. And then we are also looking at provision of the resources that are required for the youth to be able to get into entrepreneurship in agribusiness. And here, and say that maybe when it comes to processing, then we do not have a lot of processing and value addition, and she's very right here, because we do not have a lot of investment in the processing facilities. And therefore, for TVETs and for universities and for all the other actors who are dealing with youth and who are promoting entrepreneurship, then it is important that the right kind of facilities are provided for this youth. And then another issue that we'll be able to look into when it comes to engaging the youth in entrepreneurship in agribusiness is enhancing the linkages. And here I'm looking at the linkages between the different actors who deal with youth entrepreneurship. It is important that we have linkages between the universities and the communities, such that the students within the universities can be able to work together with the communities there. And we know our communities are agri-based. So that in case they get out there in the farms, they can be able to learn from the farmers. And if they are able to learn from the farmers, they are able to get the right kind of skills. And also, apart from the communities, we are also looking at linkages between the students or the universities and the industry or the private sector. And in so doing, we can look at it in terms of the right kind of internship and also in the right kind of attachment to enable the youth to acquire skills such that as they get out there, then they have the requisite skills for them to be able to start their own enterprises. So, and then the other issue was about the incubation programs. Of course, there are very many incubation programs, especially in the universities and in the TVETs. But here we find that the major challenges here maybe in terms of the staffing capacities that are required in the incubation programs, and also the facilities that are required, they may not really be adequate. So therefore, we need all the actors who can be able to make sure that the incubation centers, especially in the universities and in other teaching organizations, that they have the right kind of facilities such that the youth can be able to use those facilities for them to be able to engage in the entrepreneurship activities. Thank you, Prof. Okori. I think I'll stop it there for now, and I can come in when we have the discussions.
Thank you very much, Prof. I will now shift for you to answer both the discussants and the panelists. There are a few questions for you here. Yeah, let me just get them right. Well, most of them are really appreciating everything you have said. But let me just open it up very, very briefly to all of you. Any of you can take it, the presenters and all of the discussants. I wanted just to ask you briefly, from what you have been sharing with us, you have mentioned a number of things. And I wanted just to start with the first one. What do you think can be done really to get our youth that have graduated from higher education going back into wage employment? What do you think, one or two? I'll just take one viewpoint from each of you. I'll start with you, Prof, since you are on the floor. Go ahead, Prof. Patience.
May I get your question right, please?
I'm asking, I would like just you to give us a viewpoint. What do you think can be done to engage youth graduated from our colleges of higher education and TVETs into wage employment? You have mentioned a number of structural changes that can be done. You may cite one example or two. What do you think we need to tweak more apart from what you have said? Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, I think what we can be able to do more as training institutions is that maybe we have been leaning more towards providing education for our youth for formal employment. So now I think what we need to do is have maybe a change in that, such that if we are training this youth, then we can be able to train them such that they are ready to go out there and take the jobs that are out there, not necessarily the formal employment in the large organizations. And here, then, what it requires, it may need some policy reforms within the universities, such that we can be able to look at it in terms of encouraging the youth, not really to be selective when it comes to jobs. Because in Kenya, what we usually say, kazi ni kazi, bora upate pesa. Yes, a job is a job so long as you get the money and so long as you can be able to sustain yourself. But it's like the mentality that we've been inculcating in our students is that when you get a university degree, then you cannot get wage employment. You need to get a good salaried job. And yet, we find that those who are in the salaried jobs, in the formal employment, may not really be getting as much money as those who are in wage employment. So we need to have that attitude change and change of that perception. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prof. Duncan, please, any thoughts on the same issue?
Thanks, Patrick. Yes, thanks, Patrick. Listening to my colleague questions from Hackathon, I totally agree with that. However, my thought is that we have to recognize that there is lack of employment for the youth, but there's a lot of work which can be done to be gainfully employed. That will require us to re-engineer a process of entrepreneurship, implying that we need to strongly link the financial institutions and the policy environment to be able to create an ecosystem where graduates living in the university are able to put knowledge and skills into practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anne, any comment?
Yeah, well, I already raised quite a few suggestions, but I think specifically for universities with previous students, one thing that can be done is really use the alumni networks to have possibilities for exchange and have examples from those who've left the university, started successful businesses, so that they can share their experience and really inspire other young people to see what can be done. So, this will create kind of lighthouses that can then really stimulate a whole many more young people to want to go into agriculture and start successful businesses.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've raised very fundamental issues for us to think about. We need to train youth for a wider scope of employment. That requires a policy reform within our universities. There's a question of attitude change, recognizing the fact that the jobs are there. The jobs are limited, but the work is there. And that means a bit of social engineering, how we create value from financing, thoughts, human resource to products and services that the youth can work with. And then the whole thing about learning from others, learning by doing, the alumni networks. So colleagues, with that first round of thoughts, I wanted us to move and hear a little bit now from the youth. I want to invite our employed graduates following high on the heels on these. These are employed graduates. We want to listen briefly to Juliet Ochaya and Aidan Kyohairwe Prima. You will have about 10 minutes each just to share with us some thoughts. Over to you, Juliet and Aidan. What's your reflection? What can be done to engage youth graduating from higher education like you? How come that you got a job quickly? Tell us your story. Over to you, Juliet. Are you available, Juliet? Is Juliet
Hello.
Yes, Juliet, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this forum. Briefly, as regards to youth employment, a lot have already been said. But from my experience, it's very important to create a network, support one another, inform knowledge sharing and skill sharing each other from getting other business opportunities. Additionally, constant training and mentorship is also very important for the youth when they're already doing their businesses, because there is a big difference out in the field and then at the universities. You find that sometimes what you get in the field, you don't learn it from the university, but you get to learn everything as you carry out with your business. And also we find that agriculture in Uganda in particular, the youth view it as a poor man's job. They think it is meant for people who have failed. But I was glad to hear that the university is already doing some work towards the mindset change. So the youth should start seeing agriculture as a source of a very good livelihood and a source of employment that will benefit them, their family, and the whole country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Juliet, raising two critical things. The way we think, the way we look at life will affect you a lot. And the fact that there's a dichotomy between training and what you find in a field there, which augurs very well with what our presenters have made today. Aidan, please, can you go ahead? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. To begin with, I have to be sincere that what I'm doing right now in the TVET institution is very much related to what I gained while at my master's degree. Here in the TVET, the major challenge we have is the mindset of students. Some students just come and they just want to take the theory part of agriculture. Even when we have project work, students wait to be driven to go and do this work. Some of them, they even tell you, I'm here for agriculture because maybe my parent wants me to do it. They have not yet realized it. But for us, what we do, we take these students to the field. We are in touch with farmers around the institute. So when we go there, these farmers become the instructors now. For us, the instructors just put ourselves off, then we let the learners really learn from people already doing agriculture. This one helps to motivate these learners to really know that agriculture is not as how it used to be, that just for food, it is now a business. However, we have a challenge here with the institutions. There's a lot of wastage because technology for value addition is really not here, but we are working hard to make sure that learners know it. I would like also to thank our co-speakers for really giving, for really being so nice and advising us. I hope students who are listening out there don't look at agriculture as just for food like it used to be in past. I have to talk like from my experience when I was studying agriculture. Some people, they told my dad, why are you even wasting your fees on this girl? She's studying agriculture, you have everything here. Why are you wasting fees? But now I have to be that I'm a model now. People call me from home, consulting me, and youth out there were listening. The most important thing if you have to like agriculture is have passion for it. Like what you're studying. Don't just study for a paper, and be able, actually don't go out to look for a job because jobs are not there. And people who have formal jobs, they are not enjoying the world very well, because like they are ever in office working for some people. But if you're working for yourself, you know how to train, you know how to timetable yourself, and you can really work according to what you want, not according to what someone wants. And if you work in line with what you studied, you inspire the rest. Because why even we have a challenge here, someone tells the students tells us, but madam, we are here studying and so finished here and the person is still at home. The whole problem here comes with mindset. We have not yet known that agriculture is a business, especially us who are in up country. It is still our challenge, but we are trying as much as possible to sensitize our learners, and I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aidan. We'll now go to the second round of youth, and we want to hear those that are self-employed. I'll start with Julius, and then I will also listen to Idoko from Nigeria. Julius from Uganda, are you on? Are you connected?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 5 minutes. Please go.
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity. Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. My name is Julius Lakarebe, and I'm an employed youth, and currently into agribusiness as well. And I just want to mention that agriculture is really a very broad sector with several components that needs to be noted carefully. I'm aware that universities have a training program that mainly focuses on general information, but not necessarily doesn't narrow down to specific components within the agricultural sector. I'm just going to give a quick example. I'm aware that programs related to soil fertility, for example, in the university is taught, but I'm not sure the students or the alumni that have been there before have really had a hands-on training with the assistance of the big private sector players in that particular industry. And I think this is a very important thing that the universities need to try to focus on, so that the placement of their students are based on enterprises that are already engaged in the production, or engaged in the selling, or engaged in the business of a particular product. That way, you're able to build a student who has hands-on experience, and is also able to really have a good understanding of how the business environment is when it comes to that particular product or a particular business. So I think that is a very important area that needs to be looked at. I've also heard the panelists mention something about finance being a very big challenge for the youth, and it's really a very big blockade for the students or for the youth who want to get into agribusiness. As much as I agree that this is a challenge, but I think this challenge is not entirely a challenge that cannot be solved. Personally, from personal experience, one of the ways that the youth can easily mobilize resources is through meaningful partnerships. And these partnerships needs to happen with colleagues that probably you've had the same education with, or people who are in your inner circle and understand the kind of business that you're trying to get into. So that way, it's very easy to mobilize resources, however small it is. If there are 2-3 people, you can actually be able to mobilize resources that can get you started. And that also comes on the backbone that they should not despise the saying of, that you don't have to despise small beginnings, in other words. So however small it is, the resources that you have mobilized should be sufficient enough to get you started. But at the end of the day, the key issue is to have a very strong mindset change, like the rest of the people I've already mentioned, so that the youth can really embrace agriculture and also understand that agriculture is only driven by knowledge and skill. And that is also particularly because in the business that I'm engaged in the distribution and selling of agro inputs, extension still continues to be an area that there's a big gap in which the youth can actually be able to earn a living from. Because I am aware that there's already a big surge of corporate farmers, so we say, that are really in search of meaningful knowledge that they can use to turn around their investments into farming. So I think this is an area that the youth can also be able to tap into by providing consultancy services to this niche, which is actually an emerging market in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll move on now to Idoko from Nigeria. Are you available?
Yes, I'm here. Good
Please
afternoon,
go
everyone.
ahead. Good afternoon to you, sir. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I want to appreciate you for the privilege to share this program, and other speakers have been amazing. I've learned a lot. The previous speaker has said it all. From mentorship to partnership is what have actually helped me to achieve the small success I have. What we do here in Nigeria is we recycle old refrigerators into solar-powered refrigerators for smallholders farmers, so they can use it off-grid to store their food products after harvest. So is what I think the youth lack when they want to venture into agriculture as maybe as employers or employees, or apart from that sentiment that farmers are poor. The second one is in the aspect of being maybe a business owner or an agri-tech owner, is the lack of the what they call the Israelis, they call it chutzpah. That's the audacity to dare. So it's because it's a very hard journey. That's just the gospel truth. A lot of frustrations. The operating environment is not friendly. If you want to access loan from banks, there's just too much demand, collateral here and there. But you can leverage your mentorship. What I did was I gave myself time to fail. I gave myself 3 years gap. So what I came up with my idea. I said, George, you have 3 years to fail in this idea. So if that doesn't work, then you have to go and look for employment. So what I did was came up with my plan, my idea. Then started looking out for opportunities. I said, in the process of looking out for opportunities, I met my current mentor who took me across. So I was able to, let me say, leverage on my mentorship, and I got my first funding. So that was how I was able to assemble my first mini plant, and we're able to produce our first did the pilot testing and the rest of it. So youths can, first and foremost, if you want to venture into being an agri-tech owner or an agribusiness owner, first and foremost, seek out mentorship. So that's what I want to just shape in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very important point keeps coming round and round. One is that the youth need an attitude change. There is opportunity. We just need to look very carefully at what is around us. We'll now come towards the end of this session. We want to hear a few from Joseph Mwangi, Kenya, and Oforiwa from Smith from Ghana. You are right now being trained. Do you see any gap? We heard from Julius about practical training and how it helped him to get where he is today, and from Idoko as well, how from mentorship to partnership and entrepreneurship, he's been able to get to where he is today, making solar systems out of recycled material. I would like to invite Joseph to give us just a few of your thoughts, and after that, Oforiwa, then we'll open up another general plenary. Joseph. What do you see as gaps in the current training? You are being trained now. Are you worried of anything? Are you available, Joseph?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. I'm Joseph Mwangi, and I'm the owner of the county farm, which is located in Nakuru, Kenya.
You're breaking, sir. We can't hear you.
currently on 8 acres of exporter. Hello. Hello.
Joseph, we can't hear you.
Can you get me?
We can't hear you. We'll drop that call for now and ask Oforiwa to go ahead. We can't hear you, sir. Oforiwa, can you go ahead?
Okay.
I apologize for that, sir.
I'm here.
Yes, please go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Oforiwa from Ghana, specifically University of Cape Coast. Almost done with my master's thesis. So please, your question again. Can you ask it again so that I can at least give a breakdown of it?
Yes, my question is, you are a current student about to finish your master's. Are you worried about not getting a job out there?
Okay, currently I'm the owner of Fruit Chain Foods Company Limited in Ghana, and I think from the little experience that I had, that was 2 years ago when we came for the higher education conference to interact with some of the young entrepreneurs who won the awards. Then I decided to set up something on my own, start something on my own. So coming back to Ghana, I developed some proposal. Then now the business, it's like I'm running a business currently. Yes. So I think I don't have any issue with graduate unemployment because currently, after I'm done with my master's, I think my business is still running and I can run my business. And I've been able to also train some agro processing and some agri-business students, like they are undergraduate level. So they are helping. So we are running other aspects of the business that I'm running currently. So I don't really have any problem with unemployment after master's. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that with you. We know that businesses create jobs and opportunity. How many people are you employing right now? And what was really the key driver for that? What testimony, what do you have in there to light up some fire elsewhere? As Anne had said, we need lighthouses. Can you give us one or two of your thoughts?
Okay, so my master's thesis was I was working around the Reform Cap Plus project. That's the pineapple value chain. So I'm at the latter parts of the value chain and I'm into processing. I decided to liaise with the farmers because of our value chain system. I decided to liaise with some of the pineapple farmers so that we can, I can process some of the pineapples to prevent post-harvest losses of pineapples actually. And currently I have been able, because I made my that all students. I have 10 students and 5 of them are agri-business students and 5 of them are agro-processing students. So I had this concept that in Africa and like in Ghana particularly, students don't really have any part-time work to do whilst in school. So setting up my business on campus, then I can use that as an opportunity to employ some of the students who will be working with me. So depending on the hours or the schedule that you are free, then you come, then you work. Then at the end of the day, you get paid depending on the kind of work that you did. And the agribusiness students, they are into the marketing. So they go out there to find the market. So depending on the market that you get, some of them comes for the product and they sell it. So every product that they sell, they have a token or a bit of profit on it that they will earn for themselves as marketing students. I have all students that I've been able to employ currently. I don't have any outsider. With the outsider people, I have just 2 people that are doing the I would say the difficult tasks, like the difficult work. So
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like us now to try to wrap up this. I'd like to open for a plenary session. There have been a number of thoughts that have been going on. I'll go over them one by one. Some of the questions are directed to specific people, and others are just general comments. There is a comment here. This is thanking Anne for her presentation, and then Duncan, people have appreciated the thoughts that you raised. The whole thing about the youth entrepreneurship ecosystem. Duncan, can you just take 1 or 2 minutes, just unlock it a little bit? People would like to understand. Yeah, throw some more light on it. Over to you, Duncan.
Okay, thank you. Do you get me, sir?
Yes, we hear you. You're live
thank you
and
very
clear.
much. Thank you very much for getting back to me again. What I mean by ecosystem is that the problem of the youth unemployment resonates around 3 groups. Those in TVET institutions, those in the university, and those that are out of school. What has been happening in the past is that interventions targeting youth employment have always been moving towards specific groups. That means when you target the university youth, you forget about those in the community. You forget about those in the TVET institutions. But when you look at capacities of these 3 groups, they vary. In the community, those youth members have a lot of experience. Those in the TVET institution have a lot of practical skills. And those in the university have more of the knowledge. Bearing in mind that agribusiness is knowledge-based business, we need to blend all these characteristics. So focusing on this group as an ecosystem implies that you are able to harness these characteristics and make a better outcome than targeting each group. That also implies that being an ecosystem, we need to look at the policy environment. We need to look at bringing on board the financial institutions, because agribusiness means that you must be able to invest. Where will the youth get financing from? My former student mentioned that it is possible to use the networks, which is fine, yes. But however, if networks are very limited, then it means that we must really make good use of the financial institutions. That also implies that in the training process, financial institutions must be brought on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Duncan. There's another set of questions here. Just let me get them. Yes, there is one here which is anyone can respond. It is about attitude. We've heard a lot about attitude, and the young people here are saying the world is not ready for youth to be part of attitude. It's more or less saying, and it is agreeing with the patients. It says that there are no arrangements for youth to enter the sector. So can any of you comment on it, panelists, on this? The world is not ready for the youth. They call them the forest of tomorrow and not the one of today. Over to you. Any of the panelists, please.
Maybe I come in.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I will imagine the question is raised in a negative manner. To put it positively, I would say the world is ready for the youth. However, the youth should have to decolonize the mind to be able to see the world as a place of challenges where they have to contribute to providing solutions. I made it clear in my highlight presentation that in Africa, there are no ready jobs, but there's a lot of work which can be done to create jobs and employment for others who cannot do it. So the entrepreneurship program here sounds a little bit more rhetorical these days because everybody's talking about it, but the youth don't seem to see it very well. The key issue here is that how can entrepreneurship be addressed for the youth in a form of an ecosystem where those out of school, those in TVETs, and those in the universities are working together as a group coming from different directions to provide solutions for a better future of the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is for Anne. There's a question here about financing, the financial institutions, and they're saying that there's need to, the youth are suggesting, they say they don't have access to money and they think universities should sign MOUs with institutions or really link up finalists to enable a student start up something. I'll come back to Anne and I think it was Julius Lakarebe who raised how they can use some crowdsourcing to start up a business. But Anne, you reacted and said there is something called Nourishing Africa. It has an excellent database. Can you comment a little bit about this?
Yeah.
Over to you, Anne.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fully aware that this is a problem. And when a business is already started and needs big money, then you've got venture capitalists and banks and a lot of people who are prepared to lend money or give money on the basis of equity. But at the beginning, it is difficult. But there are a whole load of sources. And as I put in the chat, there's an organization called Nourishing Africa, which is based in Nigeria, but it's a membership organization. The membership is free, and they have a lot of really useful resources. Their funding database is the best we have found. They keep it up to date regularly, and there's literally hundreds of opportunities for different types of funding, whether these be competitions, grants, etc., all different types, and different for some for specific purposes, but others much more open. So I would really encourage you to go to look at this, because I think it's also a question of looking at, is the glass half full or half empty? You can say there's so many problems, but there's so many opportunities as well. And I think we're seeing many, many young people who are grasping those opportunities. They are finding financing and they're building successful businesses and employing others. So for me, I've got a very optimistic outlook because a lot is happening right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Julius, can you make a comment on that? It's in the same line Anne is saying the opportunities are there. And you had already started about crowdsourcing to start up some business. Any comment, Julius?
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to thank Anne for just reiterating what I had mentioned earlier. And it's also good to know that there are also bigger opportunities beyond the crowdsourcing or the people that we actually live with. So you can actually look out for some of those funding opportunities from probably some of the organizations and so on. But then this also comes at a point where the youth need to really get themselves very organized, and through their organization and through their innovation, coming up with some of those ideas that can really attract a lot of attention. So that way, that can only help them scale up. But as a starter, it's important that they accept that the resources can only be got from within. So just they can source the money from within themselves. And then if there's a requirement for them to expand, that's when they can begin to look for opportunities beyond themselves.
Okay, I'll take just one more comment here. It's and I'll address it to Patience. It's about TVET curricula, generally curricula. They are saying they are outdated and they are not synced with market needs. What's your reflection on that? Prof. Patience?
Okay, that's interesting because in the Kenyan setting, and I'm going to give my response in line with the Kenyan setting. So what I can be able to say for in the Kenyan setting, the TVET curricula is not outdated. Actually, this curricula is reviewed after a period of about 3 years, and I think the Ministry of Education is very firm on that. So their curricula actually is on top of things. And as we look at it right now, when we are looking at the funding in terms of higher education sector in Kenya, right now the emphasis is on the TVETs. So the government is really putting in a lot of money in the TVETs in terms of resources and also in terms of the curricula and even expanding that curricula. So in the Kenyan setting, that is not the case. I don't know about the other African countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Egero, you talked about Forum. It wants to train leaders who engage in transformation, diversity, for increased productivity, resilience, shared opportunity. What's your reflection on that statement by the youth? Anthony?
Yeah, sorry, I had signed out initially to go and have another training session start, which is on entrepreneurship. And here we are looking today, they are handling design thinking. Sorry, the art of pitching. So yeah, and a couple of youth that are here today, some of them participated in yesterday's trainings. But the whole idea here is that the higher education institutions, or including TVET institutions, provide you with opportunity to start how to learn. The most important thing for now is that we need as youth for you to appreciate the fact that when you get out of the university or out of any learning institution, you don't have all the body of knowledge or all the body of skills, but you need to appreciate the fact that learning is a lifelong process. I registered for a class, for example, to learn how to start how to code, a coding class. One would begin to ask, why are you bothered at PhD level to begin to start how to code? But I appreciate the fact that this is where the world is going, and I have to start learning how to do coding with all my busy schedule. So the fundamental issue here is that as youth, can you be able to appreciate that learning is a continuous process, that you can reinvent your wheel, you can be able to reinvent yourself. I usually tell my students, for example, that who among you knew that I used to teach Christian religious education? But now I do climate modeling, systems modeling, and everything else. It has nothing with initially my background as a teacher of religious studies and geography. So these are all issues that you need to be able to position yourself, see the opportunities, and try to adapt to the changing world.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I think we've run out of our time. I'll just, I'm trying to end this session. It's a very lively group, but anything that has a beginning certainly has got an end. And I wanted just to give you just a few reflections here of what I have captured. They will not be everything. So I want to really thank our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. You can clap for them on our chat room, and we'll thank them. But I will go ahead right now and just share with you what I captured as some key reflections for us to think about. Let me share my screen here. Just hold on. Just share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
All right. So this is a picture that I took someplace in Tanzania, and you can see that crowd there. Young generation, we were trying to advance the nutrition and value addition, the kind of things that Anne was talking about, starting up small enterprises in a rural setting. And the things that have been said today are very positive. But one of the things that struck me is that few countries in Africa have dedicated agribusiness support organizations. There are actually only 5 that were mentioned that have very strong emphasis on that. And that is a kind of disincentive, but if looked at carefully, it can help move the needle to create at least the right direction to create employment. I've just highlighted a few things that were raised as challenges. There's a whole host of them, as you can see. But one of them that struck me is that we have very few well-characterized food value chains. And I'll come back to that. But we need to think in a more systems perspective. Nutrition and food processing is an issue. Food safety, lack of agribusiness organization, especially focusing on women. We didn't talk a lot about this, but it is central, given that a large proportion of our population is actually female. So inclusive engagement is one of the key things that needs to be looked at. The policies for the youth, the whole area of negative attitude, and then the limited presence of youth in collective action. But we've seen an example from a youth who says if they work together, things can happen. The question about skill sets and the type of training, and then the limited productive resources. So these are the things we need to think about, the challenges. The opportunities were quite many, but I've just selected a few. The whole thing about business incubation and accelerating has been accelerating in the last decade. But there we have to do some cross-learning, and that's why hearing from Oforiwa, we miss Joseph's because of the line from Julius, from Idoko. These kind of examples can help to inspire our youth. Then training in incubation management, we need to think about that. Capacity building in critical areas that stimulate employment. The youth themselves have said that. Policies that unlock opportunity for the youth. And then the whole thing about skilling, focusing on TVETs and how we engage them with curriculum that creates skills, among others, are things we need to think about. From the youth, they have raised a number of points. But the whole thing about dichotomy between training and the field, what they see there, these are issues about attitude. And then from practice to business, there's really an emphasis that it is possible to earn a decent living from agriculture, but this has to be continuously built within the training. The issue about technology limitation can be a disincentive, and this is back again to the factors of production and investment. Training in general is very general, but not specific for the needs outside there. Again, hands-on experience. The question about financing, we have been told crowdsourcing is possible, and there are opportunities outside there like Nourishing Africa. And then finally, there was this issue of mentorship to partnership, including youth among them. Self-support is a very strong area that will move us forward. And then a call to action, really, I thought that Duncan has raised a very sensitive thing. Looking at this from a systems perspective is really required if we are going to execute, create youth, and if we're going to execute really an impactful and meaningful program. We need to think about the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And he has well said it, I won't add more. As for the implementation, again, I think the arguments of Julius are quite strong. The whole thing about mentorship, the whole thing about partnerships, and the issues raised about patience, about linking it to practical training and curriculum review from time to time. And then the issue raised by Oforiwa about making sure that students are actually engaged even in school. There's no reason why they can't start up a business on their own. And then investments in rewarding agribusiness, food processing types of investments. There's a whole broad range of them, but these facilities, as Anne raised to us, are very expensive. And there's need for strategic location and linkage to key actors so they don't become white elephants. And then the whole thing about diversifying service provision across critical segments of the value chain. We must attract both public and private equity, and there are many services available. Partnerships, creating a web of mutually reinforcing partners for training, for learning. This more or less supports the mentorship idea raised during the discussion. And then the training program engineering, I think this is raised again by Ruforum and some of the members, has been very consistent. Financing that everybody has been talking about, I think has come out strongly as an area that is increasingly, the light is getting brighter and brighter. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. Winston Churchill once said that the empires of the future are empires of the mind. These two fellows are pushing that stick, that block up there because of strong partnerships and a strong will, the attitude problem we are talking about. It is possible to move to do the kind of things that Oforiwa, that Joseph, that Ido, that Julius, and others, many others, patients were talking about, Juliet, to change the current narrative about youth unemployment in Africa. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to sign off and hand you over to Ruforum. Over to you, Florence. Thank you. Ruforum, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick. And thank you very much, all participants. Certainly, there are many things that have been said. And a lot of these things that the youth have articulated here today, some of them are going to be informing Ruforum's own internal programming and how we structure some of our programs as well, and also further in furtherance of our youth agenda. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts at the Ruforum Secretariat. These are real key issues, and thank you very much all panelists for sparing your precious time in articulating a range of issues, and most sincerely to all Ruforum supported students that are out there making a difference, Oforiwa, Prima, and all the others who are not in the chat room, who are not in the panel, but are in attendance. I also note that Florence Eta, who is our consultant doing our midterm review for the TAGDEV program, is also in attendance. So this is sort of issues that we will continue to reflect, and we really continue to thank you all, and we please do always ensure that you continue to respond positively when we send an invite. And please, at any one point in time, do feel free to send any thoughts to us by email that you feel will make a difference for this continent of Africa. Thank you very much. I think with these so many words, we would like to close this session today. As promised that it would run from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We are ahead of our schedule by 9 minutes, and we would like to sincerely thank all of you. Thank you very much, and this session now comes to a close.
Thank you, sir.